Market news now. Asian shares were mixed today. Some were bolstered by gains on Wall Street as investors waited for a speech by US President Donald Trump for signals on tax reform and infrastructure spending. That's later on today. Japan's Nikkei edged up after US stocks rose, but gains were limited. The Nikkei rose by 0.1%. Hong Kong stocks fell for the fifth session in a row. The Hang Seng Index lost a 0.8%. Mainland China stocks rose in thin trading as caution prevailed following a months-long run-up to the main index's late November peak, which is a key technical resistance level. The Shanghai Composite Index gained 0.4%. US stocks ended slightly higher yesterday and the Dow closed at a record high for a 12th straight session as President Donald Trump said he would talk about his plans for infrastructure spending in an address to Congress tonight. The Dow rose by 0.08%. The S&P 500 gained 0.1%, that's also a record high, and the Nasdaq Composite Index added 0.2%. Now, for more on the markets, we cross to Nompumelelo Siziba. She's at the JSE. Good afternoon, Nompu.
Good afternoon, Nzinga. Well, as you did mention, markets rather mixed. We did see some positivity on the European stocks, but they're all in negative at the moment, as is the all-share index. The rand has lost a little bit of ground. It's hovering around the 13 rand vis-a-vis the dollar mark at the moment. And we've had a slew of company results come out, a couple of which we're going to look at, that being Nedbank and Kuro. They came out with very good, robust results, so to speak, although Nedbank was hampered slightly because of its interest or its associate in West Africa, that is EcoBank, which has suffered losses, and in turn Nedbank also suffered losses there, but reported profits up by nearly 5%. Let's take a look at the indicators. I'm joined by Chris Gilmore. He's from ABSA Wealth. Thank you very much for joining us as always.
Great to be here, Nompu.
Good stuff. Markets seem to be rather mixed. At the top of the day, Asia mixed. The US doing very well last night, but European and the local bourses not doing very well at the moment. What are the main factors at play today?
Nompu, I think what's happening here is that everyone is waiting to listen to Donald Trump speaking this evening to the combined houses of Congress. Okay. Now, usually this is referred to as the State of the Union address. But it's not being referred to this time around. It's purely a joint sitting of the Congress. And people are listening very intently to see if they can discern what is going to come out on the fiscal side in the US. Because we've heard so much rhetoric about, oh, there's this big infrastructural boom, blah, 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 but who's going to pay for it? You see? If we get some sort of concrete indication about what's going to happen fiscally in the US, then I think it will pacify a lot of observers. Now, we were chatting earlier, but he wants to spend more in defense. Well, it's no surprise there, I guess. And yes, that will feed into the economy and will help to boost it a bit. But, you know, we can't get away from the harsh reality that the US economy is at or near its debt ceiling. So to be able to spend significantly more is going to be very, very difficult. So in some way, shape or form, he's going to have to elicit the help of the private sector. And if that means getting tax breaks and bringing money back from offshore, I mean, take Apple as a classic example. Apple's got something like $250 billion stashed offshore. You know, you bring that back and you encourage companies like that to put their money into infrastructure bonds. Well, now, then we're really talking here. So I think that's what people want to see. They want to see far greater clarity, far greater detail on what is actually going on there. So if we get that detail this evening, I think markets may well go stronger. Conversely, if we don't get that degree of detail, I think markets might languish a bit.
For somebody locally here at home who's watching, thinking, so what if America's going to spend a whole load of money in their economy? is it going to have any ripple effect on me? Is it going to benefit us at all?
Yeah. Given that South Africa is a small open economy, we rank in terms of the world rankings of economies about number 33. We're about the same size as Wisconsin in the US. So I think that kind of demonstrates just how vulnerable we are to the vagaries of what happens in the world economy. So if the US starts moving better than we anticipated even 6 months ago, it means that there's going to be a greater longevity in there. It should inevitably rub off on us as well. We mentioned infrastructure, and although we're not going to get anything like the same degree of demand out of the US for commodities that we did from China back at the height of the super cycle, there will certainly be a degree of positivity coming out of that. Demand for certain of our other goods as well. So I think that's a fair possibility. So yes, it will impact us. Anything that impacts global growth is good for South Africa, given our openness and given our relatively small size.
Okay, and let's take a look at these stocks that I mentioned in the educational space. Kuro Holdings, they're reporting quite robust results, going from strength to strength. Headline earnings up per share up 55% to 28.3 cents. Their revenue for the year was up 27% at 1.4 billion, and they've raised significant amounts of money to be able to invest further in the education sector. Would you put your money on this stock?
Only if you've got a very long-term time horizon. And look, given that the alternative in South Africa is unfortunately putting your children into substandard state education, then Kuro is in a wonderful space. But bear in mind another thing, it's an expensive share. Very, very expensive indeed. So that's why I say you've got to bear in mind that the time horizon has to be a long time horizon, and consumers are cash strapped, and after last week's budgets they're going to be even more cash strapped. But I think it's been made clear over a number of years that parents are more than willing to really spend on their children's education, and Kuro is a shining example of exactly that, but it is expensive.
And then Nedbank, we see that they reported headline earnings per share, diluted headline earnings per share up 4.8%, but if you strip out EcoBank, which they have an interest in, that would have been about 20%. Your thoughts on that stock?
Yeah, and they've written EcoBank down to a value, I think, about 4 billion. This was actually a very, very good result indeed, a very strong result, I think, from Nedbank, and particularly when viewed against a relatively languid local economy. So again, I think it shows the benefits of streamlining throughout the organisation. And no, look, it's going from strength to strength. This was a very, very good result indeed from Nedbank.
All right, well, we've run out of time, so we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Chris. That was Chris Gilmore. He's from ABSA Wealth, and hopefully after the break I'll be back with an interview with the CEO of Nedbank, Mr. Mike Brown.